the country as its number of COVID-19 cases surpassed 9,172 with 463 deaths as of Tuesday morning, both numbers being the highest outside of China. All personal travel that isn't for essential work, health or family emergencies will be banned. What exactly do these measures mean, and how are the Italians fighting the virus in their style? I'm joined from Rome, Italy by Francesco Sisci, senior researcher at the Center for European Studies at Renmin University of China, and via Skype from Shanghai, Professor Chen, executive director of the Asia Pacific Studies Center of East Asia Normal University. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. So, Sisci, directly to you, exactly how severe is the situation? Because Italy only announced the lockdown of the northern part of the country a day ago, and immediately they expanded to the country. What are people's feeling on the first day of the nationwide lockdown?
Well, people are I wouldn't say scared, but very worried because the escalation of the alarm has been very quick, and lots of people from the south, originally from the south, who were in the north, move rapidly to the south, and this now is causing a further scare. That is, people could affect the southern region. The southern regions are less developed than the north. The healthcare in the south is less affected than the north. So there is a lot of concern, a lot of worry.
President Giuseppe Conte calls the I Stay Home decree ban. He said all public gatherings and sports events are banned or suspended. Schools are closed until April the 3rd. Public places like gyms, theaters and pubs are closed. So, Sisci, you know the kind of draconian measures that have been put in place in Wuhan, Hubei. So what are the differences between these two different kind of lockdowns, if any, and how effectively do you think these lockdown in Italy can be enforced?
Well, this for Italy is the first ever experience. Italians, as people know, are not very good at obeying rules, following rules. And rules now are quite draconian, but there is not a lot of enforcement, of course, of these draconian rules. And also, you know, the whole country has no experience with anything like that. Chinese, conversely, are very good at following orders. They trust their government. Italians don't trust their government. So the situation is really confused and confusing in Italy. We have to follow the situation, the evolution of the situation in the next few days. But I'm afraid that things will still be quite fuzzy for a few days at least, if not for weeks.
Let me go to Professor Chen in Shanghai, observing from China, because we pay a lot of attention to what is happening, not just out of curiosity, but also because while China's situation has been largely contained, the new cases that are being found in China actually come from people who travel into China. So whatever is happening in other parts of the world is of great interest to the Chinese people as well. So Professor Chen, how do you look at the measures that's being taken by the Italian government to lock down the entire country, the differences between these measures as the ones that we have seen in Wuhan and Hubei province?
Well, I think actually the situation in, the measures taken in Italy is something even more draconian than in China, because this is the world's first country to place its entire territory under the extraordinary restriction on people's daily life, which is really unprecedented in Italy after the Second World War. Things actually are happening, on a quite stable situation in which actually, confirmed cases are decline, and also the situation are gradually, under control. But things actually, out of the border, outside China, is actually getting, sort of like worsening. So Italy obviously is one of the scenarios that is actually causing a lot of alarm. So I think actually the government in Italy is doing something that is quite sensible and important, that actually is to bring the whole situation under their control by imposing this travel ban, and also encouraging social distancing, and also stopping people from gathering. Those are actually all proven measures that are actually effective, that worked in China.
Well, multiple studies have shown an alarming similarity between what happened in Wuhan in the early days and what has happened in Italy. For instance, a professor of economics at the Sapienza University of Rome says the situation in Italy in the first week of March is very similar to that of Hubei in the last week of January. Wuhan's population is very similar to Lombardy, and Hubei's population, the province, is also very similar to Italy. So scholars advise people to follow the government's instructions, or else the cost will be very high, because in Hubei, almost 3,000 people lost their lives. So, Sisci, without sounding too alarmist, do you think people see the possible consequences if things are not taken much more seriously? Do you think the general public are understanding what they could possibly be looking at?
Well, the problem is that there is a lot of lack of public trust in Italy. That is, people are used to take care of themselves, looking after themselves. And there is not a great trust and great confidence in the government. That is, if the government tells them to do something, they will try to find their own ways. Whereas in China, traditionally, is not, people trust the government and follow the government orders. This is not the case in Italy. And Italy is experiencing this kind of crisis for the first time ever in its history. So this all piles up into a situation that, unfortunately, I think will become even more confusing, could become at least even more confusing in the next few days. The government has to try to gain further trust from the common people. It won't be easy.
Yeah. Well, is that why that President Conte said this is on Twitter, that this is the moment of self-responsibility? He tweeted, and it roughly translates that Italy's future is in our hands. We all do our part, giving up something for the good of the community. At stake is the health of our beloved ones, our parents, our children, our grandparents. I just signed the decree, something like I stay at home in Italy, and this tweet quickly gained more than 8,000 likes. Sisci, do you think slowly people will be more understanding, because this is not a flu? This can kill much more than flu.
I think the people understand that. People are quite alarmed about that. I'm not so sure at the moment that the people, common people, have enough confidence in what are the measures applied by the government so far. We have seen a lot of bickering between central government and local government, the press release and controversies. In a way, Italy and the government of Italy has to find a common voice to speak as one. And I hope it does, and this would inject a lot of confidence into the common people.
Yeah. Let me read this tweet also by Nicola Zingaretti, who is leader of Italy's Democratic Party, one of the national ruling parties, is also president of the Lazio region. He basically said, doctors told me I'm positive for COVID-19, I'm fine, but I will have to stay at home for the next few days. From here, I'll continue to follow the work there is to do. Courage to all, and see you soon. So it sounds that he's taking it quite positively, in a quite optimistic manner. Is there anything about the Italian personality or character that will help, to a certain degree at least, that people can get over this period of time, that they're quite relaxed, but they're also taking this in a graceful manner, maybe, Sisci?
Yeah, well, optimism. People are quite optimistic. Zingaretti is a wonderful man. He was kind of trying to inject optimism in the people, but you see, sometimes too much optimism in the face of a tragedy, of something that really ought to be taken very seriously, is not working well. And unfortunately, for Zingaretti, who tried his best, it didn't work very well. He got infected. So we have to walk, as Italians, a fine line between being positive about the future, but also taking the right measures to prevent further spread of the disease. And we haven't now so far found the balance yet, and I'm afraid that it will take some time. I hope we will find a balance before the disease spreads too fast and spreads too far.
Yeah.
But we have to follow.
Yeah. Professor Chen, finally, Professor Chen, this question I think is very important. Despite the cultural differences, despite the people's trust, people's relationship with their government, what do you think has been the biggest lesson that has been learned through Hubei and Wuhan that can be useful for other people who are fighting this virus now?
Well, I think the first important thing is actually the transparency and also effective control, from the relevant authorities to the people. There should be a kind of like a smooth channel of transmission of information. That is very important. Second, that is actually the way that actually people can really dispel their panic, so that panic sometimes can really be brewing some kind of desperation. So this is actually something I think actually in Italy, of course, as we know that the Italians are very ebullient, they are outgoing, sociable, and free spirits, But on the other hand, actually still some kind of panic can be brewing, and that can lead to some kind of negative impact, on their mentality. And also, such a kind of like travel ban imposed in Italy, by and by people will get fatigued with such measures. In a few weeks, they may refuse to succumb to the authorities of the measures. So I think actually, definitely there should be some kind of well-guided information being told to the public.
Yeah. Well, information alone is not going to cure people. A very precise, very resolute action and the ability to execute your plan, to enforce your policy. But let me go to Sisci for my final question. A lot of articles are being written about how things are handled in the United States, in China. I mean, a lot of articles are being written up and circulated about the things in Italy, for instance. I wonder, Sisci, how much have you read among these articles? Do you think the Chinese people are getting the situation right? Do you think they're understanding the situation in an objective manner?
I think China has come to grips with the reality of this disease, and the result also proves that it's right. The problem, I think, from what I see, is that many people and many countries out of China are still uncertain about the seriousness of this disease. This is the problem. In a way, I feel that Hong Kong, Taiwan, some Asian countries understand better the Chinese experience. Other countries don't. And European countries, at least, perhaps are now paying attention to what is happening in Italy. The United States is paying attention to what is happening in Italy, and perhaps they can draw better lessons. I don't know. I'm not so sure.
We hope
because
so.
Every country is different. This is the problem.
Absolutely. Culture's different, systems different. Yeah, the national character also very, very different. So we hope things can be under control very soon. Many thanks for Francesco Sisci taking time to join us from Rome, and earlier I was talking to